good afternoon, everybody. This is your host, James Whalen. This is episode number 45 of the Sports Consiglieres Podcast. My apologies to Jerry Calla and our guest for not being here. He's had a personal issue to deal with. But our next guest, I found him. I was doing some research. We want to transition into baseball, and I found that he's got an event coming up next Thursday at the Yogi Berra Museum at 6 p.m. to promote his new book. And if you don't know his name, you just Google it. And very impressive resume. It's our pleasure to introduce uh, artist James Fiorentino. James, welcome to the program, and thank you very much. And looking at your work, you really do great work. It's really, really an honor to have you on the show.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate being on.
Uh, I just got to follow some of your social media accounts. I mean, I guess what I find amazing is at such a young age, you were good at baseball and you were good as an artist, and it's kind of like right brain, left brain thing. Like,
Mhm.
and also too, you're a very humbling person. So I got to give you credit to your parents. I know you've talked a lot about your mom, your influence on it, but like, just talk a little bit about your upbringing in New Jersey, and how you just kind of started, going to shows and everything else. Because I'm a little bit older than you, but right around the same age. So.
Yeah, certainly big part of my career obviously was at a very young age, and that's helped me to where I am today. And growing up in central New Jersey, I was just mentioning how I grew up in Middlesex, and my whole life growing up was sports, was baseball, and was painting and art. So, and I love to collect. I had the collecting bug in me at that age, and when cards and memorabilia were starting to take off in the mid late '80s, that was sort of the perfect age for me when I was getting into it. And the art side of it was always there, where I was taking lessons at a very young age, learning everything. But it was really sort of wanting and going to shows and wanting to get something signed, whether it was art shows and selling artwork, but also baseball card shows, all those early shows in Atlantic City and local shows in New Jersey I would go to. And finally started setting up and wanting to get an athlete to sign a painting. And I tell the story a million times, but seeing Joe DiMaggio at a show down the shore, Jersey Shore, signed the painting for me. I was 14 years old, and this is around 91, 92. And really, honestly, from that point on, it just took off. Obviously, from that point, it was the Baseball Hall of Fame into so many big projects. But being in New Jersey at that moment, at that time period, then eventually when the Yankees started really taking off, it certainly all helped.
And then the book. What was your inspiration for the book? So I mean, I mean, first of all, I think it's admirable that I think you just have one job for your whole life. So it's just like you've just been an artist your whole life. So it's not too many people find their passion early on in life, but you found it early, and you never away from it. You always embraced it. You changed a little bit of it. I think you're doing some more wildlife scenes. You do a lot of good as far as you know having charity events and painting things for charity. So just talk a little bit about the inspiration for the book, and also I was intrigued by for our listeners out there, the book is called Art of Baseball. You could find that wherever you purchasing books, but it's also been forwarded by Don Manley. So just talk a little bit about your inspiration about the book, The Art of Baseball.
Yeah, I mean, it's simply just, coming on and doing a lot of shows like this and a lot of TV stuff I've done over the years and radio and really putting into a book form. It's ultimately like a portfolio of the last 30 years of works I've done, all in baseball. I've painted every sport, major sport, and I've painted for colleges, and I've, sort of done it all, honestly, to this point. But baseball has always been the biggest. It's always been my favorite, and just made sense because I had so many wonderful stories that go back to the Hall of Fame at 15, goes back to Ted Williams, working with Ted Williams in the museum and the 20 greatest hitters, and being around Mantle, DiMaggio, Ted Williams, Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, and developing relationships with all these different guys, and being at Yogi Berra's house at 15 years old. And so it made sense that, and a lot of other smaller stories, not everything's even in the book, but most of these really cool stories where I'm working directly with the player, with the team, with Upper Deck and Topps baseball cards, with Kellogg's, with just so many different organizations and different things. So it was nice to finally capture in a book, let people see it. I love sharing my work and my story. I love helping people. I love raising money for people and that need it. And so, a lot of that will be spread through the book. Obviously, the Yogi Berra Museum being one of them. Having the event there next week, where we'll raise some money for the museum, with the book signing and a little pop-up show. So it's nice. It's a vehicle to be able to share my story, essentially.
Well, I mean, the Yogi Berra for anybody who's listening to this podcast, April 10th is going to be 68 and admissions free. But there's also going to be some. The books are going to be for sale, but also, are you going to have some items for people to bid on there? Anything for
Yeah.
somebody to go into the museum? And if you haven't been to the Yogi Berra Museum, very cool place. I mean, very, it has a lot. I think he has 13 World Series rings, and they have a lot of events here, but very cool place if you're a baseball enthusiast. But just getting back to, are you going to have anything else for somebody who's interested in going, and like what's kind of the setup for the run of the show?
Yeah, essentially, I think there's going to be a $15 admission, but if you buy a book, then you get in for free.
Okay.
Part of the portion of the book will go to the museum, and then I'll have a few reproductions there of things. There will be original paintings also for sale and for people to see, and then I'll do a talk. So it'll be a nice little sort of wine and cheese event type of deal with all those things, with people having the opportunity to donate to the museum, obviously buy some work that helps, and just get a sense for what they do there. The Yogi Bear Museum does a lot of wonderful things throughout the year. It's been there for a long time. It's a really great museum, and obviously Yogi was the best. So
Yeah.
I've been lucky enough to have a couple of solo shows there over the years when Yogi was there once for my opening. So yeah, just to be doing this there again is very special.
And just talk a little bit about your playing career. I'm just intrigued, but like, because
Mm.
your your art is, everybody who knows you, if you don't know you, you can go to your website. I think it's jamesfiorentino.com. But I mean, it has everything. But I just was, because you won a state championship with Middlesex High School, and also, and then you went to play in Drew. But while you were at Drew, you continue to write letters, because this is kind of pre social media, pre email, and write letters and trying to still solicit. And did you paint while you're in high school? I mean, while you're in college too. And like, what was your
Yeah.
college roommate like doing? Like, I can't believe this guy's got his paints everywhere. I can't. I can't even anywhere to study. So, and being
Yeah.
a college student and paint, I just find that kind of intriguing. So,
Yeah, no, it's a good question. It was kind of cool. I mean, I was very lucky, but I think most people in Middlesex knew me more as an athlete. And then as I grew up and started getting more attention into like the 14, 15-year-old time period, and then obviously when I ended up doing Ripken's official artwork for the streak, that's when I was getting on national TV. So everybody really started to recognize me. But I was always a good athlete growing up. I mean, I played baseball, football, basketball, baseball being the biggest passion. Middlesex always had really good baseball teams. It's a Group 1 school, but just really talented baseball players, still does. Um, Won a state championship when I was junior year, was in the state championship just many years when I was there. Was lucky enough to be, as a first team all state Group 1 shortstop my senior year, was being looked at by some schools. Well, you were sort of talking about an interesting issue of like, do I go to an all art school, which I got into all the biggest art schools in the country, or do I continue to play baseball and do art? Drew was looking at me. Governor Tom Kean was the president of the school at the time, so it really worked out perfectly for me to go there, major in art, but also continue to play baseball. And baseball just got better at Drew. It was a wonderful 4 years for me there. But it was funny because I did have an art desk in there. I was literally paying my way through college.
really.
And I was working on projects there. I worked on my first Topps baseball cards my junior year in college there, the 99 Topps gallery cards. I was working on projects of Brett Favre, who called me up in the dorm room, to Whitey Ford, who called me up there. I was working with Al
Yeah.
Leiter and the
Yeah.
99 Mets, and
Yeah.
Al would call me in the dorm room. So I
Yeah.
have really amazing stories being there. Len Coleman did a opening at Drew with me there. So just a wonderful, wonderful time, and obviously very unique and different for a college kid to be. If you can imagine parties going on in the dorm rooms, and I'm sitting in there painting, or my work's in there. So
Yeah.
all good stuff.
Yeah, well, I mean, but how do they find you? Like, I mean, it's easy to. I mean, I connected you with through like your website, but how did they find you? Did you have like I know listen to other podcasts you're on, everything else is doing the research for your show. Your mom was very influential and kind of like shepherd you through like the process, really, just kind of like making sure that you kind of learn the business side of it. You're surround yourself with good people, and you really seem to have making good choices as far as your career moves. So how did people kind of find you at that early age?
It's similar today. Obviously, a lot different with social media and that. But honestly, it was a matter of just hustling, and I still hustle today with things, and I still do a lot. I'm on a lot of boards. I help out a lot of different people. I just got named on the advisory board for the Somerset Patriots, the Double A Yankees. It's a huge
Mm,
honor for me, and back then it was literally writing letters. When I got into the National Baseball Hall of Fame with my artwork, it was writing a letter to the Hall of Fame. I had been there a year or two before, and I just said, "What an honor it'd be for me one day, to have a painting in the same
mm,
place with Rockwell and Warhol and all these guys and Leroy Neiman." And they just happened to choose my stuff back then to go in there, and I did a program cover for the induction back then. Fast forward all these years later, this year I did the yearbook cover for the National Baseball Hall of Fame for their induction, which I'm very excited about. That comes out in a month. So it was just, the Ted Williams stuff was being at a card show and they saw my work. Cal Ripken was a crazy story. Someone was working in the high school that their son was doing the art project, and Cal saw my stuff, and his lawyer came and visited me and said, "We'd love for you to be the official artist." So I think everything sort of happened for a reason, and like a snowball effect there, where it went from the Hall of Fame to Ted Williams to Cal Ripken. At that time, I was also in lots of Beckett magazines, Sports Collectors Digest, Sports
mm,
Illustrated. I was doing a lot of different things, and so a lot of people were seeing it. I was also one of the earlier people to go to card shows and set up my work in New Jersey. We were just talking about this recently. Some of the biggest people in the hobby all come from New Jersey in this area.
mm.
And so even back then, it was like getting involved early with a lot of these guys and the players and setting up and hustling, going to the national 20, 25 years ago. And I think all of that, like any business doing it for 30 years, you make a lot of great connections. And like you were mentioning Mattingly doing the forward, Mattingly was my hero. I was my favorite baseball player growing up. To have a
Mine too.
relationship with, yeah,
Mine too. So I mean, basically, so I didn't want to
yeah.
cut you off. But like,
Yeah,
so
yeah,
I,
and right, and a great person too. And so for him, I did a project with Mattingly Charities last year, and on which people could still get signed Mattingly G Clays. But you know, that to me is like full circle. Like again, seeing him on the field in mid '80s at Yankee games to now being a friend of his and him doing the forward for the book. It's all just a thrill for me. I love helping people, like I mentioned. I love helping other artists. And so, and I continue to try to get better and do bigger and better things and, be more involved still today.
well, I guess as a Yankee fan, like I said, I grew up around, like I said, a little older than you, but like doing those years of the '80s and everything else, and then with Manley, he kind of carried the team. And like I'm a big Manley fan, but like you know, how did basically just your work has been opening up a lot of these doors, and like how did you get involved with Manley, and like what's your relationship with him now? I mean,
Yeah.
obviously, is it more personal? Is it professional? Like how's the relationship with
Yeah, it's a little bit of both. I mean, the first time I really met Mattingly was back when they had retirement day for his number. And I ended up after the Ripken project with the same company being his official artist for that. And that's a collage of his career. And that was on the cover of a commemorative Yankee magazine that was sold at the ballpark. And I saw Don in downstairs in Yankee Stadium prior to that game, and that was sort of the beginning. And then I painted him on the cover for the Ted Williams Museum induction one year. And I always tell that story because I think that was maybe the second or third time I had seen him. He saw me, remembered me, came over to me, and asked me how my family was doing. And this was when I was probably in my mid 20s. And so I was like, wow, this is what an incredible person. And then over the years, I would see him, at events or, at signings. And then more recently, through Ray Schulte, who I've known for many years, has been Don's agent for many years and a big guy in the hobby and has done a lot. Um, we collaborated on doing a project for Mattingly Charities and got more involved with Don with that, trying to raise money for him and all he does. So that was an honor. and then was lucky enough to say, "Hey, Don, would you mind doing this for me for the book?" And he's like, "No problem." So, again, a great person. He does a lot, and one of the greats of all time, and one of the great Yankees of all time. So, uh,
It
yeah, I
should
mean,
be
there's lucky to be able to have those relationships.
should be in the Hall of Fame too. So I don't care what they. I
Yeah,
mean, for a period of time, he was the best player in baseball. So, but I guess being biased, but and also you talk about Ted Williams, like you were, I guess, commissioned through Ted Williams, and I guess is it if you talk a little bit about that piece and how was it working with Ted Williams, and and what was your relationship like with Ted Williams?
yeah. So that was again just crazy how that all happened, and they saw my work at a show. It was the second year of the museum, and they just said, "Hey, how about you do this painting?" Ted's choosing 20 of the greatest hitters he feels like ever lived, not including him. And there was a book written on it. He did like a mathematical formula on the players, so he was way ahead by doing that kind of stuff. And they said, just go home and create whatever you want. Create the painting of the 20 greatest hitters, and I put Ted in the middle. I flew down with my sister to meet him. Probably like the fall of that year, 95 ish, and then
You were in high school at the time.
yeah.
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 So
I actually created that painting at home in Middlesex when I was in high school. That was the summer of my junior year. I worked on that in our living room on a big on like a big flat table because the painting was the biggest I'd ever done. It was like 40 by 50 inches. And then after meeting Ted, and he was awesome, and he had the painting hanging in his house at some point, and we were talking all about the painting and the players he had, he saw these guys play. He just said he never obviously saw Shoeless Joe Jackson play and a couple of these guys. It was incredible, and had Ted sign some stuff for me, which is a big thrill as a kid. And then I flew back out with my parents, and that event had like over 50 Hall of Famers in February of the following year. I love telling people that the table next to me was Hank Aaron, Willie Mays, Ted Williams, and Mickey Mantle. And Mickey passed away later that year, but my mom, who loved Mantle Maris, brought him over to sign my painting. So that painting was autographed by everybody who was alive at the time. Eventually, I would get DiMaggio later down the road. He wasn't at the event. And he eventually would ask me to do a project with him, which I ended up not doing. But Mays, Mantle, Williams, Musial, Ralph Kiner, just all these unbelievable guys, all were signing the painting. But that's where I started seeing a lot of the Hall of Famers, and they would remember me. I'd take pictures, I'd get a baseball signed. I remember Bagwell was there that year. That was Jeff Bagwell's first MVP year. George Bush
yeah.
spoke at the event. It was just, and then I think about a 3 year or 4 year period after that, I would then start to do covers for them for like 3, 4 years in a row. But that experience with those guys at that time was unbelievable. And, I was lucky that I was so young doing that. I think that's also why when people see the book, they don't understand how old I am because they think I'm obviously much older to have worked and painted those guys back then.
So just talk about your daily life now. I know you say you paint every day. So like, for me, I guess I need structure in my life. So how do you keep yourself structured on something that's kind of ambiguous as painting? Like do you treat it as a job? I know you have, your two boys you talk about, but how do you approach a day? And unfortunately, I guess art, delivered a life where you can do this as a living. You're not a starving artist. Basically, you can, all these paintings you did were astronomical. So,
Yeah.
what's a day in the life of James Fiorentino?
Well, I am very organized and very structured. So thankfully, like, and be able to work out of my home. I have my studio here. I have all my paintings lined up for commissions of what I have to do for people through the months. Things pop in and out. Predominantly you'll do a lot of sports art and baseball stuff, but I do a lot of portraits of people. I do a lot of portraits for companies and different people like that. I do a lot of landscapes, which I love doing, that are entered in watercolor shows around the country. I do obviously a lot of wildlife and nature work for a lot of wildlife organizations, many of which I'm on the board for. So the beautiful thing is I'm doing a lot of different stuff. Obviously, the concentration mostly baseball and sports, but still, it's nice to be able to break out and do other things that give me an opportunity to not be so focused all the time on baseball. But I'm very disciplined. I make it like a 9 to 5 job. I've been doing that for 25 years. And I'm on the phone a lot. I have meetings like anybody else would do. And so that's thankfully that does make a big difference because and I do paint a lot, so I'll paint on the weekends sometimes, but I am very family oriented, and I also dedicate a lot of time to people and other organizations. So I try to find enough time to do everything and live life to the fullest of what I'm doing. So
But as far as I know, you were the youngest ever to be accepted in the New York Society of Illustrators. So how did you find out about that recognition, and then like how old were you when you got accepted into that Society of Illustrators?
yeah, it's amazing because I forget a lot of this stuff. But I got in around 19 years old. So I remember the joke was I couldn't drink at the bar. So all these old
Yeah,
illustrators were in there. But like
yeah,
the cool thing was that was, and I remember getting sponsored by a couple like amazing, famous illustrators and Murray Tinkleman, who was a famous baseball artist, Syracuse professor. So when I was young, I had these incredible mentors. Like I talk about from a collector standpoint, I love the 53 Top Set because one of the artists was a mentor to me, Jerry Dvorak, growing
yeah.
up.
And I guess he's a
I
Jersey
was,
person too. Is it?
yeah, Jersey guy. Yep.
So
And just around like have an opportunity to meet Leroy Neiman at a young age, and but all those people when I was young, again being in the Society of Illustrators at 19, and uh, was just pushing very hard too around that time to be able to get a lot of work and do a lot of things. So yeah, I mean it's what an honor to be in this area, and that's a beautiful thing about being close to New York City, being a member of Salmagundi Club and Society of Illustrators, and then obviously all these other watercolor societies that I'm involved with. So
and then you were, I guess, were commissioned for Reggie Jackson's Hall of Fame portrait. So how did Reggie Jackson find you? And first off, coming back, he's a great player. Clutch hitter. I think it's synonymous. I guess he had 3 home runs and over 3 different pitchers on in a World Series game. So iconic figure in baseball, especially with Yankee baseball. So what was it like and is that when you did you grasp that opportunity? Like, hey, I kind of finally made it. I could make this into something when
mhm. Yeah, I think I had just painted a random painting of Reggie, and I think I just sent that image, and they just said we'd love to showcase this. I think obviously at the time they were really impressed with me being a young person, a young artist, and the passion I had for art and baseball and the Hall of Fame. And so yeah, they just had, and I still have that painting here today in my home. But yeah, I think Joe DiMaggio at 14 and somebody offering me money for the painting, which was a lot back then. And I feel like going to the shows, and the Hall of Fame was incredible because that Reggie was in the showcase, which had all his game use stuff for induction. So when I was there, you'd see just hundreds and hundreds and thousands of people coming in front of my painting, taking a photo of it or in front of it. So I was like, wow, this really is incredible. I think when I got the Ripken project, which was the right timing in my life, which really helped me get into college, truthfully, and started seeing that I could make a living doing this and painting commissions for people. And then again, it goes into a lot of other things. So beyond baseball, once people see, what you're painting, they may want something, they may want their children, painted playing sports. So it ended up being so many different things. But yeah, I was just really lucky enough to figure that out at a young age that, hey, this is what I love doing for a living. And if I can make it, I'm going to work as hard as I can to do it. And I think, again, just building it and working hard and finding all these people over time allowed me to do it. I think the negative is like any job that you do where you're your own boss, you own your own business, you never know where it's coming from. Even till this day, I may not know what paintings I'm painting in the fall or winter or whatever. Like just stuff magically comes in all the time. Some of that's luck, some of that's 30 years of doing it, some of that's being around a lot of tremendous big time people. I have a lot of great people invest in my work and want my stuff, and so I think that's just years of doing it.
I mean, obviously you're doing this as a business side, but do you paint for enjoyment too, like for yourself? Do you ever, what do you do to kind of paint, like just to
Yeah.
kind of like don't feel the pressure of a deadline, or is he gonna is the commission person going to like it? So what do you usually paint just for kind of relaxation? Because it is a relaxing.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, like I did a portrait of my oldest son recently for a show. I painted this beautiful top of New York City image in watercolor that I'll use for shows this year. I have this beautiful owl painting I'd like to do, and a peregrine falcon, which again more tends to wildlife and landscapes. So those are ones I'm excited to do that'll enter into museum shows and watercolor shows. That's sort of my, you know, fun way of doing stuff in between commission work that, sometimes you do and you don't want to do certain commission stuff, but you do it because it's your job. That's a little more free for me. But 20, 25, 30 years ago, I was painting for fun, large oil paintings and neo expression cartoon imagery, completely abstract, different kind of work. Maybe one day I'll get back to that. But I think the fun part for me is still doing watercolor and being challenged and doing more of the landscapes and things like that.
Right, and then I know with charity, I guess you're involved in, is it the Ed Lucas Foundation? That is, which is,
Yeah.
I guess it was. So how did you get involved with that? And then also I know Phil Rizzuto was involved. I think Dave Cohn's involved with that. And it's a pretty big organization around this area. So how did you get involved with that? And,
Yeah.
do they have you, like, do they have you, like, what's your affiliation with it?
Sure. Yeah, that's a great story. Ed's a great story. And Allison Lucas. So that goes back to, again, like, gosh, 25 years or longer, maybe even 30 years ago. I had first met Ed Lucas at Yogi Berra's golf tournament. And I remember clearly walking out somewhere, and Ed Lucas spotted me and said, or saw me and grabbed me and said, "Hey, I'd like for you to come to my golf tournament." And that was when Phil Rizzuto was involved. And again, Ed Lucas's story is pretty remarkable and incredible. There's been a book written on his life. Ed became blind, I believe, when he was around 12 years old. A baseball hit him in between the eyes while he was playing outside. And at that time, it was literally the shot heard around the world was happening on that same day. Ed would then go on to go in the dugout with the Giants and Leo DeRocher and Mays in the 50s and 60s, and really was being taken in by players and was interviewing guys. So he was seeing baseball through his through listening and writing it, which is pretty incredible. And he would go on to 50, 60 years in a row at Yankee Stadium on opening day. He was married to Allison at home plate on opening, or not on opening day, but just
Wow.
married there.
Yeah.
And Ed had relationships with all the players and people beyond that. So an incredible, remarkable life. And so all those years, Ed would have me come to the golf outing. And I believe in the beginning, I wasn't even playing golf. I was young. And after Phil Rizzuto, it became Gene Michael. And Gene Michael sort of took over the name. And then now it's David Cohn. But it all raises money for the Ed Lucas Foundation. We do a tremendous job of distributing money all over, scholarships to Seton Hall for disabled students, to the Seeing Eye, to all different organizations that deal with all of that and education, and just it really is an incredible event. The event now has been selling out. It's extremely popular. We get a tremendous amount of players, former players that come out. It's in August this year at the Brook Lake Country Club. People can look it up, but we'll have like guys like Bernie Williams, David Cohn, Ramiro Mendoza, El Duque. Last year, Wade Boggs was there. I think we may have Roger Clemens this year. Lots of different Mets, lots of players. It's golf, it's an auction. But again, all this tremendous amount of money gets raised to go to all these different organizations. And so I'm really proud. I've been on the committee for many years, and then last year, Allison Lucas asked me to be on the board and become vice president of the foundation. I'm just happy because I know Ed'd be so proud of everything we're doing. There's so many great people at the organization that work really hard. And so we make it fun. We make it great for the people that come. The players love it. And then we raise money. So, those are the kind of things that I get to do that are really tremendous and are the fun part of all the art that I do. So.
Well, that's good. I mean, that's great. But as far as that, I mean, it's a great charity. I mean, it's a well-known charity too. Just personally yourself, you have two boys. Like, what would you say if summer's coming up? What are some cool venues as a baseball fan did you like going to, or museums, or um, events? What are some cool places as a baseball enthusiast that you like to go to?
Yeah, I think so. Both my boys, they're 15, 11, play a lot of baseball. So they're both playing. My oldest plays high school baseball and club baseball. The youngest plays club baseball. I kind of ended, I think, my coaching for them as far as literally coaching them on a team. So we'll be really doing a lot of baseball traveling, and then as far as having fun related to baseball, going to Yankee Stadium and going to the Somerset Patriots. To be quite honest with you, I was just telling somebody recently, there's nothing better than the Somerset Patriots for the price, for how beautiful the stadium, the players that are playing there now, the Double A Yankees players coming in to play against them. You know how many Yankees, just from Volpe and Wells and Heel and I mean so many guys who've just come up. Dominguez, all been
Mm.
playing there the last 2 3 years. So we love going to the ballpark, to Somerset Patriots. I'll be at the National this year, the National Sports Convention, which is in Chicago. Showcasing work. I'll do a book signing at the ballpark this year at Somerset Patriots. I think it's June 12th, but I'll be listing all that. I believe I'm doing something with Bernie Williams, who I love and admire as a musician, as a former player,
Mm.
great person. So doing something with Bernie's foundation and a softball event. So a lot of cool things baseball related with my art and us just kind of having fun.
Do you ever make it up to the Hall of Fame? I know they had the library there. I just got to make an appointment for free, like to kind of get some. They have a whole area. Do you ever go up there and just kind of check out things for, just for new perspective on, like,
Yeah.
so-
Yeah, I'm lucky. I'm very lucky to have a great relationship with the Hall of Fame. And again, this year I'm really excited that I did the yearbook cover for the induction. I think I'll be up there for the induction. My family and I, we were up there in the fall, I believe. We were up there a couple times recently. They're doing amazing stuff, and I love people getting up there no matter what time of the year, and becoming members and really the research, like you were saying, and just like taking advantage of how great it is and how great it is for families and all the other things you could do up there. I believe I'll be doing a book signing up there, I think in September.
Mhm.
Also signing the yearbook covers up there. But like that in itself too is just incredible, and incredible for us to be involved in. Like we really enjoy, like I said, going there as a family and doing things. So yeah, I
Yeah,
recommend it highly to
Yeah,
visit to visit the
Cooperstown's a
mall.
nice little town too. Like a lot of
Yeah.
cool restaurants right there and everything else. But I know I don't want to take any too much more of your time, James. But just a couple of questions, and then I'll let you
Mhm.
go. NFTs. Have you kind of delved into that world, as far as what you're? Or you strictly your craft and that's it?
You know, I talked about it recently when I was speaking to a bunch of people last week. I never got into it. And, a lot of people contact me, some companies. I just, I'm a pretty like, I never felt, I'm trying to think of the words for it, but not that I didn't understand it, but I just didn't feel comfortable with charging people for digital art of mine. Now, again, there's a lot of tremendous things that have been done with it and you can do with it, but it just wasn't for me, I felt like. So I ended up not doing anything. And especially when that stuff was coming out at that time, my work was taking off even more. I'm very old school, honestly. I'm drawing in pencil, I'm painting in watercolor, and that's sort of how I've always been. So yeah, just really never got into it.
Well, listen, James. You have anything else coming up? I know you have the Yogi Berra event next week. You have June 12th, I guess. You have anything else coming up with promoting the book on in the coming weeks? Or I know you're tied up with baseball. The only thing I'll say with baseball, my kids are older. I would just say just enjoy every minute of it, because once it's gone, it doesn't come back. So enjoy it. It's great watching your kids play. Enjoy
Yeah.
something you love. So, but
Yeah.
you have anything coming up that you'd like to promote?
I think the Yogi Berra Museum for sure, the Somerset Patriots in June, Hall of Fame, things like that. I do post everything on my website, jamesfiorentino.com, and on all the social media stuff. So I'm always posting because some things may pop up locally. Again, the National Sports Convention in Chicago, I'll have a booth there, meeting people and signing the books and things like that. So, but local things may pop up here and there. But I think the Yogi Berra Museum next week will be one of the first ones. So.
All right. Well, listen, James, I can't thank you enough, and thanks for sitting down with us. It really is, you know, on this show, I appreciate anybody who comes on as a guest because they're giving up the most valuable commodity, which is time. So I really appreciate your time and really appreciate the stories. And listen, you had a story career, and if anybody check you out, I mean, I didn't even get a lot of the stuff you went into, but you said you can go to your website, jamesfiorentino.com, and follow you on social media. Everything's there. But I appreciate the time. Good luck with the book. I mean, Don Manley. I'm going to purchase the book just for the fact that Don Manley just to see. But I'll try to get up there on Thursday, but no guarantees. I'm going away the next day, so it might be a little bit. But I'm living in New Jersey, so if you're at a venue, I'll definitely introduce myself. But I mean, really,
Cool.
good luck with the book, and I can't thank you enough for the work you're doing. It's really great stuff. And then, good luck, and then, but really appreciate the time.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on the show. Appreciate it, and look forward to seeing everybody.
All right, this is concluding episode number 45 of the Sports Consigliere Podcast. This episode was produced by Chop Sports Media, Dave Sturcio. Look forward to future guests, baseball guests. Jerry told me, just on a side note, James, he said, hey, let's transition to baseball. And I'm fortunate he couldn't be here, but he said, just give me somebody who's Italian, because he's Italian, and somebody from New Jersey. So unfortunately, life gets in the way sometimes, but I appreciate James' time. Good luck with the book. And we'll talk to you soon. And
Thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, sir.
Take care.